What is up, guys? Welcome to our new series called Next Level Faith. Now, in this series, we're starting it because of the message last week, which said that you are called to be a part of something bigger than yourself. That God has given you the equipment, the tools, and the power to succeed in His kingdom and in changing the world. And on that journey that I'm going along with you, I want to make sure that you are growing closer to Him, because that's the only power source that you're going to be able to have on this journey of being next. Now, I'm going to read Matthew 18 verses 1 through 4, and I want you to follow along, but while I'm reading, I want you to think about the question, what does next level faith look like? In Matthew 18, 1 through 4, it says, "About that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, 'Who is greatest in the kingdom of heaven?' Jesus called a little child to Him and put the child among them. Then He said, 'I tell you the truth, unless you turn from your sins and become like little children, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven. So anyone who becomes as humble as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven.'" What could our first step be? The disciples were fighting for power. They're fighting to be disciple numero uno in this situation. We're fighting to grow in our faith, to become stronger in Him, to grow closer to Him. Same direction, different motivations, but Jesus answers either way. And oh man, so often when we think about even just the term next level, we think of upgrading or performance or advancing, just to name a few. And Jesus, per the usual, takes our expectations, our perspective, and flips it on its head. Like, when we want to get better at something, it's usually to win at something, to succeed, to get promoted, to move on. And He calls the position that we should take the lowly position. That's in the NIV. That doesn't sound like fame, success, money, power, or control. If anything, it sounds like the lack thereof. Now, I'm not saying that to say that God can't bless your life in all of those ways. But I am telling you that in God's kingdom, in His eyes, in His world, the way to succeed is to be humble, is to put on humility. And I want you guys to know that it's a mindset, it's a goal, it's a new way of living life that we are called to. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 5 through 6, it says, "In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time." Now, we're to respect our elders and those above us, that's clear. But the Bible is also clear that not only that, but we're to clothe ourselves in humility towards one another. What does that even mean? Like, sometimes when I'm reading the Bible, I'll read stuff like that, and I'm like a jacket? Is that what He's talking about? Or like the armor of God? Is this another armor of God thing? Like, I'm confused. But Jesus actually does a wonderful teaching that portrays this exact concept. And I'm going to read it for you in Luke 15, 11 through 21. It says, "Jesus continued, 'There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of the country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. You see, the beautiful thing about this, though, is that his father ran to him and threw his arms around him. And that is exactly how God responds to us in our humility, when we choose to be humble, when we choose to put it on. Pride pushes us away from God. Humility draws us toward God. By choosing humility, we agree with God about our true condition, where we're really at, and our true need for Him. You see, we need Christ today just as much as we did the day that we were saved. That's a humbling truth that we should never forget. No matter how self-sufficient, righteous, honorable, faithful we think we are always, daily, and desperately needy for Him. See, while pride twists and destroys us, humility preserves and protects us. Every day, every hour, often unconsciously, we choose to either humble ourselves or to be proud. And considering the fact that pride tends to be our default condition, humility requires a deliberate and intentional action. See, we're told to clothe ourselves with humility toward one another. And I want you to keep this in mind. Your clothes don't magically appear on you in the morning. You have to choose to put them on and then actually follow through with that decision. It's a two-step process. I have to choose to, and then I have to follow through with. Humility won't magically happen. You need to choose to take the time and effort to clothe yourself in humility. I dare you to test your humility. You see, what that looks like is usually seeing how we treat those that are closest to us, our loved ones, and those around us. It looks like seeing how we treat those that serve us and that go out of their way to do things for us. Because even when we're tired, even when we're mad, even when they've done something wrong to us, the Bible doesn't give us qualifiers on when it's okay to not humble yourself or to humble yourself. It just says to. And how we treat those that serve us, that love us, and are closest to us is often a great reflection of our humility and Christ-likeness. Matthew 23:12 says, "For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." Now, wait. So now it's saying that if I humble myself, I'll be exalted. But doesn't that kind of ruin the whole point of humbling myself? Like, if I was still trying to be exalted and get accolades and attention, then I might still care. Then I might still be engaged with that concept. But why would God decide to exalt me after I humble myself? Like, what's the point? Being proud isn't just wrong. It's stupid. You see, we're gonna pay a terrible price for it either way. Usually in damaged relationships, but in so many other ways. And being humble isn't just right, it's smart. You see, it pays off for us because we'll be happier and more at peace when we are humble and when we know that God is using us to serve others in His kingdom. And it might not make sense at first because it doesn't make sense to make yourself smaller and then you'll feel bigger. It doesn't make sense to do the small things and then the impact will be big. It doesn't make sense to be less to feel more. But in God's kingdom, in His reality, in His logic, in His knowledge and wisdom, this is the truth. And if we don't humble ourselves, God will humble us. But if we do, God will lift us up in due time. Jesus, who washed the feet of the disciples, said, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many." So the question to ask now is, if God sent Jesus down to humble Himself, sacrifice, and serve, what does that mean for me today? What habit do I need to start? What life change do I need to make? What one small thing can I change to grow closer to this example that Jesus made for me? What actions can I do to daily clothe myself in humility? That's why the message today is, put it on.